Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Michel, d'avoir partagé avec nous vos perspectives si importantes. Well, this leads us to the first panel for today, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the moderator for this session, Mr. Tom Mashberg, journalist at the New York Times and longtime observer of the art market and matters related to cultural heritage. Tom, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. We've heard some amazing speeches just now, and now we have some very interesting panels where we can bat around some of these ideas. This, we think, is a groundbreaking international and interdisciplinary conference, as was mentioned by some of the earlier speakers. We've, as you know, gathered in response to widespread concerns about the online trafficking in cultural property. Now, the trade is not new, but the illegal activity we are now seeing facilitated through online marketplaces and social media platforms has created an unprecedented crisis. So to reiterate, the acceleration of internet commerce and the ubiquitous use of digital platforms has basically transformed the methods used by art and antiquities traffickers, allowing for rapid sales, global reach, encrypted communication, and relative anonymity. We also have to admit that new tools emerge constantly and marketing strategies as well. And so enforcement has to keep up with the speed of change. It's also important to note that cultural plunder is more than an organized criminal activity, although that's certainly bad enough. But it is, in fact, a scourge that strips away the very history of nations and undermines the identities of communities. These objects carry very resonant stories. They connect the past to the future, and when they are torn away and put onto the marketplace, that material, that history is lost, sometimes forever. And that history is something that all of us obviously seek to preserve. So our first session today is titled Legal and Policy Framework and Duty of Care. And we'll examine the intersection of international law, national frameworks, digital governance, and the responsibility of the major stakeholders, and in particular, online platforms. We will ask our panelists how existing legal tools, including heritage protection laws, cybercrime prevention efforts, and e-commerce regulation can work and evolve together. And we'll explore in particular the obligation of digital platforms to identify and remove illicit items, and how public-private cooperation between government actors and those representing these platforms can grow into a successful partnership. This is not a blame and shame event. We want to highlight good practices that are put in place by committed stakeholders, and we'll explore how those stakeholders and others have worked in partnership rather than on separate tracks. So let's start by presenting our panelists. They're all going to come up now, and careful not to trip on the steps. We'll start with Ms. Maria Jose Buerba Romero Valdez. Maria Jose is Director of Restitution of Cultural Heritage at the Office of the Legal Advisor to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Mexico. And we will also invite to the stage Ms. Maria Rosa Hermida Cruels, and she is the Senior Expert for Global Affairs at the very successful platform Mercado Libre. Also with us is Marcin Sabaczynski, Chief Specialist of the Task Force for Monument Safety at the National Heritage Institute of Poland. And, oh, sorry, go ahead. And Ms. Joanna Giega, who is the Intellectual Property Team Manager in the Trust and Safety Department at the e-commerce platform known as Allegro. And we have representatives from law enforcement. We'll start with Alfio Gulata. He's a policy officer for cultural heritage at the European External Action Service and someone with extensive field experience. And Ms. Viviane Schenker, who is a prosecutor at the Geneva Public Prosecutor's Office in Switzerland. So very diverse and committed and interesting panel. So let's start with two case studies that we believe illustrate the positive things we want to present, which are public-private cooperation in the fight against online trafficking. And so let's start with Mexico and the platform Mercado Libre. And I'll start with Maria Jose, who, as we just noted, is Director of Cultural Heritage Restitution at the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and who has specializes in safeguarding the cultural rights of indigenous peoples. And again, we'll introduce Maria Rosa. She's a senior expert in global affairs at Mercado Libre, with 12 years of public policy experience. So Maria Jose, could you please tell us more about this important collaboration between the Mexican government and Mercado Libre, Mercado Libre being the largest e-commerce platform in the region? Specifically, how did this cooperation begin, and how do you believe it's contributed to the protection of cultural heritage property?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me. Well, like many other countries, Mexico possesses an extraordinary cultural heritage, which has left a profound mark in our country and our people. I'm the other Maria. Well, I'm gonna begin, and then you will see the presentation. These elements are fundamental for our constitution of our historical consciousness and definition of our national identity. Mexico remains deeply committed to the global fight against the illicit trafficking of cultural property and the conservation, thank you, of the cultural objects. Since 2006, we have restituted more than 22,000 objects, and we have worked with many countries, but the countries we have more success in numbers is Canada, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, and the United States, as you can see. And just between 2023 and 2025, we have recovered over half of those objects. And in the first 6 months of 2025 alone, we have recovered over 10% of the total, so more than 2,000 objects in just 6 months. This shows a significant shift in the numbers of cases and the effectiveness of our diplomatic and legal actions. And I think I can sum that up in three key factors. One is that we implemented an internal protocol in 2023 with our diplomatic missions, and which provide not only the legal guidance for them to assess the cases, but also to identify, handling, and secure the objects for their return to Mexico. Second, we acknowledge our human and technical limitations and turn to one of our greatest assets, that is the Mexican people and the public in general. And we invite the population to understand that this is not just a government issue, it's everyone's responsibility. And through our national awareness campaign, Mi Patrimonio No Se Vende, or My Heritage is Not For Sale, which I see now that they are replicating in other countries, we harness the power of social media to reach broader audience. And in 2022, we have requested other states, in some cases, even the secretary of this convention, to stop more than 50 auctions, of which we have only received favorable response from less than 4%, which is 20 objects out of the 20,722 objects, which represents less than 1% of success. And we knew that, and so in 2023, and finally the reason why I'm here, is we signed a cooperation agreement with Mercado Libre, which, as Tom said, and Maria is going to explain, is the largest online sales platform in Latin America and one of the most used in Mexico. And we knew and had several cases of cultural objects being sold through this platform. And when Mercado Libre approached us, they actually wanted to collaborate to make an awareness campaign with us and a museum exhibition in partnership. And we made a proposal that it was okay, but we need to have a collaboration agreement, something that makes sense, that we work with you for this exposition, but we need to have a legal basis. So through the partnership with Mercado Libre, the Mexican authorities have been able to monitor the listings and report suspicious activities, not only to the Mexican authorities, but also to Mercado Libre, so they can use this information and have the proper tools to have a response for the illicit trafficking of cultural property. That, as everyone here knows, is something that happens. So even if you have the legal measures when you open your account, they use the platform for something that it was not meant to be. So we have to assess that and have a response. That's why the Mercado Libre collaboration came to be. In the first year alone, so 2023 to 2024, we identified more than 30 listings. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you take into account that it's not only to report the publication, but also to have a proper assessment of the objects and do the technical evaluation, our National Institute of Anthropology and History has people dedicated to monitor Mercado Libre in other platforms, but Mercado Libre especially, and carry out the corresponding technical assessment to determine whether the objects are, in fact, objects that belong to Mexico, and therefore whether the sales constitute a crime. And it's through these actions that we form a broader strategy that include public awareness, enhanced digital surveillance, and cooperation, of course, with international organizations, ensuring that Mexico cultural heritage is protected both physically and in the digital spaces. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Maria, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Tom, and thank you for the invitation. I also have a presentation. I think it's first of these slides. And well, Maria Jose and Tom just mentioned that Mercado Libre is the biggest e-commerce company in Latin America. And yes, we are the leading Latin America's technology company. And as Latin America's leading technology company and the region's largest e-commerce player, we take the security very seriously. It is the core of our business, the foundation on which we have built the trust needed and the trust needed for our users, right? So we think that there can be no inclusion without a safe environment. Our mission, this is important to mention, is to democratize e-commerce and financial services in Latin America. So the users have trusted us for 25 years now, and security layers are very important for us. For this reason, and to continue being the most trustworthy platform in Latin America, we have implemented various tools that combat the illicit sale of products, with a special focus, of course, on combating the illicit trade of cultural heritage. So if you could please go to the next slide. We have deployed a multi-layer security approach that combines advanced technology, user validation, and proactive prevention, built on four main pillars, which are strong content policies. In the first hand, these policies are part of our terms and conditions and are mandatory for all of our users. Well, the first content policy is prohibited products. More than 50 categories are excluded or are prohibited to be sold in our platform. Of course, these categories included all the products that are prohibited by law, but we go beyond that. For example, in Mexico, there was not an explicit prohibition of the sale of cigarettes in marketplaces. Now it has. Now Mexico has this law, but but before of having this law into force, we prohibited the sale of cigarettes. So we go beyond the law, right? With respect to objects of historical, cultural, or archaeological heritage, we have a specific policy that forbids their sales and their publication. Of course, we need to cooperate with the government because we are not the experts. The competent authority are the ones that can help us to detect these products. We also have the intellectual property infringements policy, which covers listings that violate third-party IP rights, and the prohibited techniques, practices that exposes buyers to potential scams, such as disclosing direct contact information, price fixing, and misleading product descriptions. The other measure that we have, the other mechanisms, are proactive moderation. We are proactive, not just reactive. We use machine learning and artificial intelligence tools, allowing us to anticipate and block threats in real time, protecting users even before a risk materializes. We apply this machine learning to detect fraud in items, descriptions, and messaging, and deploy algorithms to detect and predict fraudulent behavior by all ecosystem actors. We review millions of listings daily with 99% accuracy in detecting illicit items and in detecting those items that are prohibited by our policies. These tools are enriched by knowledge from authority requests, and a team of human experts are also in charge of fine-tuning these models and moderating listings. We use also reporting channels, external reporting channels. We have a report button that is available for all of our users. They can report if something is being violating our policies. We have also our brand protection program, which is an exclusive channel for IP right holders. We have also a collaboration with authorities, in which I'm going to have a special focus in the next slide. But we are proactive in collaborating with authorities, regulators, and associations. And we also have the KYC system, Know Your Customer, which focuses on obtaining, validating, managing, and internally sharing information about our registered users. The KYC is very important because this layer prevents repeat offenders from registering to the platform again. So one thing that we celebrate and that we really encourage is the strong collaboration programs that we have with authorities. As Maria Jose mentioned, we have a strong collaboration agreement with the Mexican authority to avoid and to review if there are listings that are selling illicit cultural property products. So this agreement has been very successful. It's one of a kind in the region. We do not have any other with other government. Of course, we cooperate with other authorities in this matter. We are, for example, cooperating really actively with the Brazilian authority in this sense, but also with all the authorities. We also have law enforcement cooperation with law enforcement authorities. And we have a case that I want to explain to you really, really fast. In 2021, we worked with Interpol and UNESCO in Peru to recover Peruvian dolls and ceramics that belonged to Peru's cultural heritage. So although we do not have a specific collaboration agreement with UNESCO, we do cooperate with authorities in every case that is detective. And just to finish my exposition, I want to make it very clear that we take this seriously and that without cooperation of authorities, this could not be possible. So we need to work together. It has been mentioned in the introduction words. So Mercado Libre is committed to this, and we are very pleased to share this with you. And just one more slide. We have also a transparency report that I can share with you. And in this transparency report, you can see how we cooperate with authorities via various requests. You can see information on how this cooperation with authorities have worked, the effectiveness of this. And well, this is all that I have for my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria Jose. And we'll move on to another case study in cooperation of the kind that UNESCO has been seeking. And that is what's happening in Poland with the government and an online platform known as Allegro, excuse me. So our next speaker is Marcin Sabaczynski, and he's an expert in the National Institute of Cultural Heritage at Poland, and he specializes in heritage security and cooperates with law enforcement to prevent and combat crimes against cultural property. So Marcin, please go ahead. You have the floor.
My employer, the National Institute of Cultural Heritage, is a central state institution organized by the Minister of Culture and National Heritage. The institute is not the part of the administration or other authorities. It plays the role of substantive support for the minister, voivodeship, conservators of monuments, and other state bodies and institutions in the field of the protection and promotion of cultural heritage. In 2007, the Allegro auction portal was the primary outlet for illegally acquired archaeological artifacts. Every day there were several dozen new offers. Archaeological finds in Poland are the property of the state, excluding, of course, those legally imported. Our first step in this fight was the contact with Allegro. Next we started observing suspicious sellers, archiving their auctions, and looking for patterns of their behavior. Allegro offered us to join the Rights Protection Cooperation Program. At the same time, Polish police set up the national team for combating crimes against national heritage, which no longer exists, but was our main partner in the law in enforcement agencies. We were fortunate in all circumstances. The analysis of offers with archaeological relics indicated that there were three types of sellers. These were treasure hunters who offered items personally excavated, dealers who obtained archaeological artifacts from the black market, and accidental finders who were not aware of the legal rules. We had different responses to the different types of listings. After consultation with the police, we decided that taking down the auction of people who knowingly break the law could result in their withdrawal from Allegro and the sale of the item in other unknown location, and it could be concealed or destroyed. The aim of our action was not to remove the auction, but primarily to recover the antique, establish the circumstances of its acquisition, and eliminate the perpetrator from the black market. Therefore, transactions of those deemed to be conscious criminals were archived and reported to the police without being taken down. The police from national team intervened very quickly, sometimes a few days after the item was listed. We only removed auction of people who had accidentally come into possession of archaeological artifact, were unable to describe it properly, and had no connection with the black market or treasure hunters community in their bidding history. The removal of the bid involved sending an explanation by email and indication to the legal provisions and the request to hand over the fine to relevant authorities. This activity was quickly noticed to the community of collectors from Allegro. On the initiative of Allegro, an educational campaign on the protection of archaeological heritage was carried out on the blog and in a newsletter addressed to several thousand of most active users. During the first 3 years of cooperation, we registered about 2,600 suspicious auctions, the number of which started to decrease rapidly after the police eliminated the most active sellers. In the fourth and fifth year of cooperation, we started to deal only with the single auctions requiring intervention. It became common knowledge among collectors and treasure hunters in Poland that Allegro, the police, and the National Institute of Cultural Heritage searching for auctions with archaeological finds. Sellers who now offer archaeological artifacts include information in the auction description that the object was acquired legally. The portal does not require them to do that, and this is a standard that has been created from the bottom up as a result of our joint efforts. At this point, I would like to thank Allegro for everything, for their excellent cooperation, initiative, and great heart for heritage. Thank you, Joanna, and the floor is yours.
Bravo. Thank you, Marcin. Joanna, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, obviously. Thank you very much, Marcin. I'm a bit humbled by because this is the experts' cooperation that make us better platform. So thank you. And maybe I will move to our slides. I mean, my slides I prepared. If I can ask to move to the last one, because I think it will echo what Marcin just said with the picture. Oh, exactly the one. So basically, on the left side, you can see the artifacts that were discovered by National Institute of Cultural Heritage on our platform and were stopped. And actually, all the images coming from the case that was referred to the police. So you can see there are some Roman fibulas, coins, and other illegally found artifacts dig out by the sellers, which started offering on our platform. But there is also a most recent case, and I think it echoes something that has already been said during the initial speech on the very beginning of the conference. So we also were reported that on one of the offers, it was like 2 years ago, someone is offering the final of the military banner. I hope the final is the right word. I'm not the expert in military, collections. So basically the eagle, and apparently it was the lost one from the 13 itinerary regiments from the September campaign during the Second World War in Poland. So it has also something, it's not artifacts per se, it's not only historical finding, it's absolutely something more, because these all objects that we're talking about that are being, translated, transferred, sold illegally, they are telling the narratives, right? They are used to build narratives, they're telling the people's stories. So I think this is very important what we're doing here. I'm really pleased to be invited in such an honorable audience and participants of the panel. So basically, this is what we were doing, and luckily and thankfully, with the help of our experts, external experts, we managed to cut it down. And whenever something pops up, we can take further steps and even refer it to the police. So I'll now request for the second slide. So I'll come back to the initial. Beginning. Okay, so I'm showing the numbers not only to brag about the company that I'm working for. Obviously, I'm very happy to work in the largest e-commerce platform in Poland. We started in Poland, but as you can see on the map, and this map is quite important because it's one of the 3 takeaways from this slide for you. I would like to, pass. We also expanded to Czechia and Slovakia, Hungary, and we also operate in Croatia and Slovenia. But what you can see from the map, we are on the border with Ukraine, right? So this is very important from the context of our conference today. So we are neighboring with a country which is war theater, unfortunately. But as has already been said, this also triggers a number of illicit trade and illicit trafficking. Already mentioned Pandora project. We know that Poland is a transit country for traffickers, right? And I'm also very happy that it's already been mentioned by David Cantor from Interpol, that we're not focusing only on the cultural goods, because the pattern is all the same for all illicit trafficking. And whether we're talking about the counterfeits, whether we're talking about people, whether it's just organized crime that's gaining the profits from illicit trade. So basically, this is it. Where we are, we're doing our best. We need some input. I also show you the numbers, because all the numbers from the slide, they also translate into the number and the volumes we as a marketplace dealing with. There are millions of active offers every day available for our customers, which means that we have to someone tackle that regarding all the problems and all the illicit, illegal, non-compliant offers that may occur on our platform. And cultural goods are one of them. This is why the cooperation with the experts that will help us to identify the content is so extremely important. Another thing, I think Maria, you haven't mentioned that, but I think Mercado Libre is also 3P marketplace, right? Yeah. In majority. And I think it's also very important to underline that the platforms are not, we're not identical, right? So there are marketplaces, which are like basically 3P, so third-party platforms who haven't got any access to the products, right? So it makes it even more difficult to assess and analyze what the product we're dealing with. There are 1P platforms or more 1P platforms like Amazon, and there are also social media, which are probably going to be also discussed today, which we're dealing with the same problem in a totally different manner. Okay, so this is basically about the numbers and our location, geographical location. I can ask for the next slide. And what we do to tackle this problem. So first, we have very robust onboarding processes involving KYC, so know your customer basics, also biometry for certain most suspicious groups of sellers. We also have repeat infringement policies, so we do anything that is possible to identify entities that have already been banned from the platform. We also have proactive and preventive measures, based very much half or fully automated, but we have to bear in mind there's still human factor very much needed and involved in the processes. We also looking into and already deployed a lot of AI and ML models, which I think are absolutely future for our platforms to deal with any kind of illegal content, including illicit goods, which have already been mentioned today, because this is probably how we recognize the content based on the images that we see. And other data, if we connect it, so sometimes images are not enough, we also extract data from, regarding regarding the consumer, IP addresses, and whatever that is available for us. This is something that builds the case to better identify and later on eliminate the content. And last, but absolutely not the least, and I think this is the main topic of our conference, is creating a single point of contact for cooperating entities. So what we do, and I think cooperation will be the most frequently repeated word today. Honestly, it's true. I mean, we have to know the person on the other end, right, to contact with, and they have to know us, because, this is how the information flows and how we can learn from each other, improve, change, in order to better tackle the problem we're facing. So we're cooperating with experts like Marcin. We're also cooperating directly with law enforcement. We also conduct trainings for law enforcement authorities, not only police, but also prosecutors and judges. And I think that will be it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, these two case studies in cooperation show us the path forward in a positive way, and perhaps during the question period, if there are other representatives of marketplaces who'd like to talk about their cooperative efforts with the public sector, please feel free. Let me now introduce Alfio Gulotta, who is the Policy Officer for Cultural Heritage at the European External Action Service. Alfio develops policies to enhance and protect cultural heritage under the EU integrated approach. His career includes work for the Italian Carabinieri, the Command for Cultural Heritage Protection of the Carabinieri, and is a civilian coordinator for training in cultural heritage protection. So, Alfia, the European Union has introduced several regulations and an action plan to combat illicit trafficking of cultural property. Most recently, in 2024, there was a Digital Services Act that aimed to create a safer online space by regulating online service providers across all areas of e-commerce. Could you explain how this regulation helps address the complexities of online trafficking in cultural property, and please offer any tangible results that you have seen that you'd like to let us know about.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to be at UNESCO and have the possibility to talk a little about what the European Union in general is doing on this very specific issues, and then doing a little more in the Digital Service Act, which indeed is one of the possible options specifically for prevention. The European Union has worked for many years on protection of cultural heritage, but sorry, no worries, thank you. But since 2021, the speed changed, first with the implementation of the concept of cultural heritage in conflict and crisis, which was the first policy of the European Union dedicated to cultural heritage that was implemented for the external action. Then in 2022, the Commission adopted its European Union Action Plan on countering trafficking on cultural goods on the 12th of December 2022, that later on was followed by a Council conclusion that gives political weight to this action plan, that defines a series of action for the Commission and suggestions for member states. They don't come out of the blue. We've seen this morning in the extremely interesting presentations that there are several indication already from Interpol, from the specialist community, from all the different conventions that have been in time developed on protection of cultural heritage and countering trafficking of cultural property. What the action plan tries to do is to adapt this to the European Union framework and implement it and suggest to member states to implement these policies. And it's working. It's seeing some differences, some work. I've already seen the effects here this morning in the presentation brought forward. And the point is that it's a collaborative effort between the Commission, between the European Parliament, between the Council, because in the end, as it was indicated since the beginning, this is a cross-cutting issue. It's not something that can be solved by one stakeholder alone, but it needs cooperation between different actors. And this is what, in the end, the action plan calls for. Of course, many of the indications are for law enforcement, enhancing better cooperation between law enforcement, but there is also a relevant way for cooperation with the art market. It was established a working group with experts of the art markets because the art market is a partner. It's a very important partner in this fight. And as said by Professor Michel, it's not about demonizing anyone. The art market is a partner in this fight because in the end, a more reliable art market is a better way to protect cultural heritage. And in this, also the Digital Service Acts give us support, not specifically only on countering trafficking of cultural property, but in general on the online platform, which, as we have seen today, they are gaining relevance as a system for having transaction also in the field of cultural property. Now, the regulation entering into force in 2024, it's too early to have an assessment of how effective it's being. The point is that you can already see some effects. For instance, in the corner on top right of Twitter, the 3 points report illegal contents. It's something that was probably created after the Digital Service Act. Why? Because it enforces, especially very large online providers, the ones that have more than 10% of the customers of the European Union, 450 million customers of the European Union. The Digital Service Act works specifically more and gives more provision to those very large online platform and very large online search engines that, of course, have the power, the manpower, the money to implement better the solution that are indicated in the Digital Service Acts. In the end, it is a tool for prevention. Because it allows to identify, know better your customer, eliminate illegal content from being published online. But give me 1 minute to give a point on the other side. I'm working as a policy officer, so on policies in this moment. By my background, I am a law enforcement officer. And on the other side, it is important also to consider the necessity to use the data that online providers have to support investigation. And this is something that can be done only at a national level. It was explained by the other panelists. It's extremely important to have cooperation on information with law enforcement at the local level, because that can enhance the intelligence picture and manage to connect the dots between on one side who steals the item and on the other side who physically places it on the market. And I will stop here because I already stole 1 minute of time. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Well, I hope this is better. Anyway, let me reintroduce Viviane Schenker, who is a prosecutor from the Geneva Public Prosecutor's Office in Switzerland, and Viviane is a member of the Prosecutor's Office Pool for International Transfer of Cultural Properties. She holds a law degree and a master's in criminology and international law in armed conflict, and she has years of experience as a criminal attorney and legal advisor to human rights and asset recovery. Viviane, the UN Security Council has acknowledged on many occasions that the role that the illicit trafficking in cultural property can have for terrorist purposes, and its significance in relation to other global illicit flows of transnational organized crime. In other words, this money can be used for very negative things. So where do you see the most significant gaps or loopholes in current national and international legal frameworks regarding online trafficking, and are there steps you would take to address those vulnerabilities?
Alors, tout d'abord, merci pour l'invitation. Je suis ravie d'être là et de pouvoir vous parler un peu de l'expérience suisse et en particulier genevoise en la matière. Avant de répondre à votre question, peut-être que je vais vous expliquer concrètement ce que cela signifie pour nous de traiter un cas de transfert illicite de biens culturels, très brièvement en quelques étapes pour que vous puissiez ensuite comprendre les défis qu'apporte la dimension numérique dans tout cela. Donc, en Suisse, nous avons une loi fédérale sur le transfert international de biens culturels qui est entrée en vigueur en 2005, qui est donc une loi d'application de la Convention de 1970. Et c'est donc suite à l'introduction de cette loi que nous avons commencé à traiter ce genre de cas sous cet angle. Je pense que l'on peut dire qu'on est un bon cas de figure de collaboration entre différents acteurs, parce que dans l'énorme majorité des cas, les affaires sont portées à notre connaissance par les douanes. Il faut souligner qu'à Genève, nous sommes un cas particulier parce que nous avons des ports francs, donc des immenses dépôts où des biens peuvent être stockés pendant très longtemps sans être formellement importés, ce dont font usage nombre de marchands et de collectionneurs. Donc nous avons à Genève une équipe de douaniers qui sont désormais bien formés et attentifs, et qui sont parfaitement conscients des objets qui peuvent être à risque, des pays de provenance à risque, et qui, lorsqu'ils identifient de tels objets, interpellent d'abord l'Office fédéral de la culture, qui dispose d'un certain nombre d'experts, pour voir si l'origine illicite est confirmée, s'il y a des soupçons suffisants pour que le cas puisse être dénoncé à la justice pénale et donc arrive chez nous au ministère public. À ce moment-là, nous devons, dans l'énorme majorité des cas, mandater des experts judiciaires, parce que dans l'énorme majorité des cas, les biens ne figurent pas sur les listes Interpol des objets volés, mais proviennent de fouilles illicites ou de pillages. Donc, par définition, les pays n'en ont pas connaissance. Donc, nous devons trouver les experts pour les pays concernés, pour les époques concernées, ce qui n'est pas forcément toujours facile en restant simplement à un degré national, et faire procéder à ces expertises pour, déterminer que l'objet est un vrai et pas une copie, le dater dans la mesure du possible, mais surtout déterminer sans aucun doute possible son lieu de provenance. Et ça peut impliquer des expertises non seulement archéologiques, mais aussi scientifiques. On a eu un cas très connu de sarcophage romain qu'on a pu restituer à la Turquie, parce qu'on a analysé la qualité du marbre, on a analysé la qualité des petits bouts de terre qui restaient accrochés dessus pour pouvoir le localiser exactement. Mais tout ça pour vous dire que le processus qui permet d'arriver à un résultat, c'est-à-dire non seulement sanctionner les coupables, mais surtout pouvoir restituer les objets à leur pays d'origine, c'est un processus qui demande énormément de temps et de ressources de différents acteurs différents. Donc, quand on introduit la dimension numérique là-dedans, il y a les défis, il y a deux défis principaux qui sont évidents. C'est la nature transnationale, parce que ça va impliquer des besoins de coopération entre pays, ce qui rajoute lourdeur et lenteur administrative. Et deux, c'est l'aspect technologique, parce que évidemment, en tout cas à l'heure actuelle, la justice pénale ne dispose pas des mêmes armes, que les criminels pour lutter contre ce trafic. Juste en quelques mots, les pistes de réflexion que je pourrais voir par rapport à ces deux défis principaux, le caractère transnational et les besoins d'entraide, on ne peut qu'inviter les États à réfléchir à des moyens de faciliter, en tout cas d'assouplir les possibilités d'entraide. Ça a pu se faire au niveau du Conseil de l'Europe avec la convention cybercrime qui permet des moyens d'entraide facilités, c'est-à-dire à une autorité de poursuite pénale d'un pays de pouvoir s'adresser directement à un acteur numérique, à une plateforme, à un fournisseur Internet, sans devoir formellement passer par une commission rogatoire internationale. Donc ça pourrait être un exemple qui pourrait être creusé aussi dans le domaine du trafic de biens culturels. Et puis par rapport à l'aspect technologique, alors je me réjouis beaucoup d'entendre le panel de tout à l'heure pour voir quels outils ont pu être développés à ce jour. Mais je pense qu'il faut aussi réfléchir à des moyens d'arriver à responsabiliser les plateformes, les médias sociaux par rapport au contenu qu'ils publient et à trouver des moyens de les en rendre responsables pénalement. Indépendamment du fait qu'on peut agir à un niveau préventif et les inviter à interdire, voire éliminer ce genre de contenu, mais si elles ne le font pas, d'arriver à trouver des moyens de les rendre responsables pénalement. Et typiquement, alors on n'a pas encore eu de cas de figure à ce jour, mais je pense que ça mériterait d'être creusé. On a l'infraction principale de notre loi suisse prohibe l'importation, la détention, l'exportation, la vente, mais aussi le fait de procurer ou de distribuer des biens culturels volés ou provenant de fouilles illicites. Donc, dans le fait de procurer ou distribuer, en tout cas, je pense que ça mérite d'être creusé et si un cas se présente, on sera content d'essayer de le porter en justice par cette voie-là. Indépendamment de la sanction, les sanctions ne sont pas des sanctions extrêmement lourdes, mais je pense qu'il y a un dégât d'image potentiel qui pourrait sensibiliser ce type d'acteurs. Voilà, je vous remercie.
So we're going to have a little bit of a question and answer period soon, but we do have a question we'd like all of you to weigh in on, and maybe just very quickly, I think it would be instructive for you to, each one of you, tell us what is the most useful, practical step you'd like to see going forward in order to prevent this scourge of online trafficking. We'll start with Maria Jose.
Thank you. Well, I think the cooperation with other platforms is key. Obviously, the work we have done with Mercado Libre is very useful, and we recognize the work of Allegro, but there are other places that the sale and auctions are happening. So I think the cooperation and willingness of these companies to address the problem that is cultural property traffic, and we have to do this framework so we have a base to work with them. And I think it's not that we're saying that the platforms are illegal, but they are being used for something illegal. So I think understanding that is key for the work done with the governments. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Like, we talk a lot about digital platforms, but Joanna mentioned it. We also have to look for social media. Social media is also a channel in which we can find illicit products, and I think this cooperation with authorities and this law enforcement for the digital era also must have to look for the nature of the marketplaces. A marketplace, it's usually it's 3P, third party. So we are accountable, yes, but also we have to make accountable for the ones selling the illicit products. And I will repeat once again, social media is also a channel that we have to look very carefully into. And just to complement my answer, I must say that the most successful programs in combating illicit trade, at least for Mercado Libre, has been working hand in hand with authorities. Both competent authorities like the Mexican authority in charge of looking for the archaeological and cultural heritage of Mexico, and also law enforcement authorities. So we should move forward doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, well, from my perspective, it's quite similar to what Maria Rosa just said. So, basically, the cooperation and being hand in hand with other stakeholders, because otherwise we'll not have the knowledge, we'll not have the expertise. And what has been said by Maria Rosa is very important. We are also responsible for explaining to the seller why the content was removed. I mean, we can't do it like on our own discretion. We're just removing whatever, you know. No, we have to. We are also obliged by the, legal requirements to explain why we think the content was removed. That's why the cooperation with the either experts like or organizations like National Institute for Cultural Heritage or other experts that are helping us to identify and confirm that specific content is illegal is extremely important. So this is something I would underline, because without this, we'll not be able to go to the point that Vivienne just mentioned. So banning, proactively preventing from appearance on the platforms, because we don't know what is it that we're looking for. And hopefully that during the next panels, we'll be discussing the AI support in identifying illicit goods, because this is the biggest problem. Do we know what we're dealing with? Is this particular product or this item is really something that was obtained illegally? And when we're talking about cultural goods, it has even more layers of illegality and complexity that comes with that with other illegal content, because other illegal content is usually 0-1. Here we have like other questions that are being asked. So this is why we need cooperation with experts. Thank you.
For me, most important thing is we were working as a team. We discuss particular cases, and most of the decisions was a common decision to take off the auction or keep this going on to the police intervention towards mutual understanding of the goals and of the specify of work.
A disclaimer, I cannot speak for the European Union on this, so it will be from my experience in working in this field. And I would say if I have a magic wand, transparency and more data sharing between national authorities, among themselves, between states, between private and public stakeholders in this field. The information is out there. What is peculiar with trafficking in cultural property is that the end of the market is or seem legal, something that will never happen for other illegal market. So at a certain point, it will resurface. It's the intelligence in between that lacks, and that can be created only sharing data that might seem trivial for someone, but for someone else can be very important.
Great, thank you very much. And Viviane?
Je crois que je l'ai déjà mentionné effectivement et ça revient dans les propos de chacun. C'est vraiment de trouver des moyens de faciliter la coopération, que ce soit au niveau policier ou au niveau judiciaire.
Très bien, thank you. So let's we have a little bit of time because we've run over, I'm afraid, but let's take some questions or comments. I'm going to have to raise your hand. Very good. I'm going to have to ask you to keep it very brief because really we're unfortunately behind schedule. So go ahead, please. Yes.
Thank you. First of all, my name's Erica Beauchereau. I work for Sanoa. We represent the trade. And I'd just like to say that it's about 10 years I've been coming to these conferences, and I'm always very impressed about the enthusiasm and the determination of the participants and their organizations to tackle illicit crime. I have a question. In 2020, there was a very important report that came out from the RAND Corporation. It was commissioned by the US government, which analyzed carefully the online trading of the antiquities in particular. And in the panel discussions, most of you mentioned that the crime is increasing, and I was wondering if there's another study that could show and give us more information, because the trade is often confronted with people that are trying to sell things, and we would really be helpful to see what extent it is in the marketplace, what are the patterns, what types of objects are being sold or tried to be introduced on the market illegally. And then just in general for us as a group that are trying to combat it, it would be very helpful to be able to measure progress that we're making. So if we don't have the initial figures, it's very hard to measure if we're making progress or not. Thank you. So if anyone has a new study that's available, please share it, particularly maybe Interpol. Thank you.
As part of the action plan, there was another study on the sides of the market because it's inherently difficult. We've seen some data already cited. Some member states of the European Union have very detailed studies on seizures and on number of seizures, number of crimes committed, etc. It's not mandatory. It is suggested to create this kind of studies, and I truly hope that it will be implemented so to have a wider picture. What was commissioned was a study that hopefully will be published soon on traceability and how the different member states are operating on traceability of cultural
Great answer. Thank you.
inside the European market. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vijay.
Morning, this is Vijay from India. My question is to Viviane. Just a question on the UN statute. So it's on the UN statute, the 1970 convention. You implemented in 2005, but if the theft happened in India, for example, in 1994, the physical object comes into Switzerland after your implementation, would it fall under it?
La loi va s'appliquer à tout acte d'importation, de vente, etc., qui aurait lieu après son entrée en vigueur. Donc même si l'objet a été initialement volé ou pillé avant ça, à partir du moment où il arrive en Suisse, il est vendu, importé ou etc. en Suisse, il va tomber sous le coup de la loi. Maintenant, ça nous arrive encore régulièrement justement de découvrir des objets dans nos ports francs qui sont entrés en Suisse bien avant l'entrée en vigueur de la loi. Donc là, elle s'applique pas en tant que telle et on a tous ces débats. C'est pas encore définitivement tranché. de savoir si elle pourrait s'appliquer en cas de nouveaux mouvements. Mais quoi qu'il en soit, après, pour arriver à un résultat, il faut qu'on essaye de trouver d'autres infractions qui peuvent s'appliquer, et ça peut être des infractions standards de notre code pénal, comme le vol, le recel, qui est une infraction continue. Donc tant que la personne conserve le bien, elle le recèle, même si elle ne l'a pas initialement volé. Donc on essaie de trouver des solutions comme ça.
Thank you very much. Noor Trabelsi, I'm an industrial engineer, but thoroughly passionate about cultural property. My question is, we talk a lot about stealing physical objects, but what about stealing the images of these cultural objects? What has been noticed lastly on many social platforms is that there are a number of AI-generated sort of cultural heritage objects that are circulating and used by people to sell or to trap others into buying them. So I was wondering if this is something that you consider from a legal framework, or are we still too far away from going into defining laws for this matter? Thank you.
Joanna, what do you say?
I'm not sure if I'm in place to speak for the social media platform so much. I think it's more a question for the maybe Alfio about the regulations, because it touches very much upon who is responsible for the image generated by AI. And we actually in Europe we've already we approach this subject. So probably that would be the angle to come to that to approach it. So. And again, how then later on the social media platforms can deal with that. Apparently, there are already some technologies that will be helpful, like all the fingerprinting, in order to prevent specific or similar images to be reproduced somewhere in the internet space. However, again, I'm not an expert here because I'm not representing social media, and it's totally different environment. So this is something what I wanted to say. I mean, we look at the platform and how we can secure it from, being abused in different ways, in a totally different manner when we offer, with our platform, offer goods versus the services like social media. So, well, this is something that I only suspect. Maybe I feel that to add something from the regulatory point of view, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you all. We've unfortunately run out of time on this fascinating discussion, and it's time to hand the podium over to Anne-Marie, who will moderate the next session titled From Artifacts to Algorithms, Technical Solutions for Cultural Property Protection Online. Thank you all. It was an excellent job. Much appreciated.